Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 4 in our mini bootcamp. And today we actually going to work on, in the first part of the class, definitely we're going to go over the font properties and some other properties that we're going to need for today's project. But we also going to build a project from the scratch with you guys so you can see how you can use all the elements of HTML and all the properties you learned about in the past 3 days, and you get how stuff work together and how you can put them together to build a simple project. And of course, if you know how the project works, you can always edit it and customize it to your own need. Any question before we start today's class? Anybody have a question? Okay. So I'll start by sharing my screen here. And we're going to continue with the font properties. That's the one we stopped at. So I'm going to start sharing the slides here. And this is the web page you should go to and enter this code. Okay. So we covered all of that, most of that yesterday. We went over the box module, margin, paddings, and border styles. And also we touch on the selectors, how you can use the ID classes, and how you can select multiple elements in the screen. Talked about the auto value and how you can center elements in the document, and in the inherit value, how you can inherit from a parent some properties. Box sizing. Here we go. We are at the fonts. So the font have multiple properties. The first one is font family. What type of font you want to use? Because there's multiple fonts out there and they have different names. So font family is technically the type of the font. Okay. Font size is going to be the size of the font. And usually you use pixels or percentage. You want the font to be small, you want it to be large. Of course, the font weight is, you want it bold, you want it light or thin. You can control the font thickness, in that case with the font weight. I believe font style, let me see, font families, font style. Oh, that's how you, if you want it italic or normal or oblique, that's if you want to make it italicized text. All right, so we're going to start with the very first one here. The variant, you're barely going to use that, like if you want to use small caps font, but we're going to take an example about that one too. But the most important one here that you're usually going to use is the font family, because you want to select the font that you want to use in your web page, the font size, and the font weight. These three are the most important one. And of course, there is a shorthand that I'm going to tell you about it when we finish exploring all of these properties. Let's first talk about font families. Font families, there are two types of font family names. You have a generic family name, groups of fonts families with a similar look. and you have a font family, a specific font family, like for example, you have the Times New Roman or the Arial. These are specific fonts and you have them installed in your system or in any specific operating system, you will have them. You don't need to do anything. Even if you're using a Word document, you will have the same names of these fonts. From the drop down, you select the name of the font that you want to use it in the document. Same thing here, font family. Okay, so what about the generic? Generic is the group of the fonts. Are the, you want, for example, the Time Roman, you will have it, if you're typing an S, it will have that kind of extra dashes. But if you type in an Arial, the S is like that. Okay, so you can, in that case, you have two groups, either, I think they call it sans serif. Let me search it real quick. Sans serif font. Yeah, sans serif fonts versus serif. So if you take a look at the images, here we go. So you see this F here, this is a serif font. So it's a group of font that decorate the font for you. So it's serif. Okay, so any font with decoration, doesn't matter what is the type of it, it's called serif font. So that's the group, a generic name for a group of multiple fonts name. And one type of that font is the Time New Romans. And this is the sans serif. Sans serif don't have any decoration. As you can see, sans serif don't have any decoration. And the type of font that belong to that group is the Arial font. Okay, and it shows you here that the extra decoration that you might have in the serif font, and this is the sans serif font. So this is a generic groups that you can use for different type of fonts. Because it's not only one type, it have multiple types that belong to that group. Okay, so that's what I mean by generic family. But a font family, a specific font family, you know exactly the name of the font that you want to use. How you can change the font of a text. You have to use the font family property. And when you apply the font family property, you put the name of the font. You can stack here multiple fonts. So it will try to get you the first one if that user have the Arial font in his system. If you don't have it, it will fall back on the second one, which is a font family, the Times New Roman. And if it couldn't find both of them, it will fall on the generic name, which is in that case, serif font. So if I couldn't find the Arial or the Times font, then you know what? Any font that is serif type in your system, upload it for the text of this paragraph. So you usually put a stack of fonts, and the last one will be generic name is like the last option you want to fall back on. You want a serif or sans serif. Of course, there is so many studies made by Google and other companies that it's not good to use sans serif or fonts that have decoration in them in the web, because it's hard on the eye, especially if you're writing like a document or a blog post. You never find a blog post that's using many decoration for the characters. It will make your eye exhausted more. So the serif font, which is there is no decoration for the font, more used when you have a lot of text in the page. Okay, I believe the Arial font is much better than the Times New Roman font. But this is usually how you can type a font. It's a stack of font. You use the property that called font family. And after the font family, you start listing your stack of fonts and you separate them with a comma. And the last one is usually the generic name. Okay, let's try that and see, do you need to actually to memorize all these font names? Of course not. So let me start here by creating a folder. open it. I'm going to rename it. Just right now it's called new folder, but I'm going to rename it later. You can create a file here, fonts.html, create a boilerplate. You can remove them. Let's go over this too, actually, really quick, or actually this meta tag, so you fully understand them and you don't have to remove them. Whenever you use text in your page, like let's say I have a paragraph here.
Can I ask you for a favor, Alfred?
Mm-hmm.
Can you copy and paste this doc type to Slack?
This doc type?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Like all of this code.
Your computer don't generate the boilerplate?
Well, the thing is, I'll be honest with you, I'm having trouble creating the file.
Okay, I see. Creating the HTML file here.
Yes, so I'm on Visual Studio and I go to File.
Oh, you know what? You know what? Before we start, share your screen, and I probably can help you with the problem that you have. Share your screen.
Give me a second to share because I'm on a different.
No problem. We have a lot of time today.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Recording.
okay, perfect. Okay, I think I know what is the problem is. So as I mentioned earlier, that in order to open a Visual Studio, you have to open a folder. So close the Visual Studio. Close the Visual Studio. Which folder you want to open? Create the folder first. Right-click on the folder. Right-click on it. You don't have that. Okay, I see. So you don't have to open with Visual Studio Code. So not a big deal. Open the Visual Studio Code again. And you see here, it will tell you open folder, right? Click on open folder. And now select that folder in the desktop, the one that you want to originally open. So go to your desktop and select that folder. Select folder. And now you open that folder. And once you open that folder, yeah, you can say yes. That's not. You close the welcome screen, the get started welcome screen. You click on the X on the top. No. The X, yes, this one. And now go here, create the file is, yep. Then will create a folder. Yep, this will create a file. Now type in the name of the file. Perfect. Press enter. And here, put an exclamation mark and press enter or tab or whatever. And here we go, you get the boilerplate. Okay. So the whole idea, you must open a folder with Visual Studio Code. And once you open a folder, then you start creating your files. The reason you don't have the open with code in the right click, you probably want to reinstall Visual Studio Code, and during the installation, you check mark everything, also including that you can't have access with a right click. Okay. Of course, it's not saved, then you should press Control S to save the file. You see there is a white circle on the top there. So press Control S to save the file. Yes, this white circle, that means the file is not saved. So make sure always you save the file by Control S. Okay. You can stop share the screen if you have any other questions.
No, that's it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. Okay, so I have in the fonts, I'm going to generate a boilerplate, like the basic skeleton of the HTML. Here we go. Now we have the doc type here, which is an instruction to the browser. Tell it that I'm going to use HTML5. My document start with the opening tag of the HTML, and it have an attribute with a language indicating that I'm going to use an English language. And this opening tag, and you have the closing tag down there surrounding my whole document, my HTML document. And this is the head of my page. Head will include only instructions to the browser, nothing for the user to see. Everything you put in the body here is whatever the user can see. So the first one, let me put my paragraph here. So the first one is called the meta, and there is multiple meta tags you can use. The first one here is meta, and it's this empty element, self-closing element. It tells the browser what kind of a character set that we're going to use. Character set is the library for the characters that you're going to use in your document. Is like character set, which is called UTF-8, have most of the character that you will ever use, even special characters, doesn't matter. This library of characters will have all of them. Even if you remove this line, the browser actually don't care. It will utilize UTF-8, which is the library that have all the symbols of the characters that you're going to use in this web page. Okay. Second one here is to make your page compatible with Internet Explorer Edge. So it's a little bit complicated because Internet Explorer is not the best browser out there. And I believe the Microsoft stopped supporting Internet Explorer, and now they're working with Edge. So that line is to make your page compatible with Internet Explorer to view them as an edge. This one here, it's very, very important because it will control how your page look in a mobile devices or different width devices. So that will give the browser an intelligent, or give it some instructions, tell him, hey, the viewport or the screen that my application will be running on, make the widths, the device widths. Did you ever try to open a web page on your mobile phone and you find the font, it's like you zoom out and the font is so tiny? You ever that happen to any web page? That's because they are not using that line. So you zoom out to view the page as you view it in a computer. But this is, you shouldn't do that. In mobile phones, you should let the browser get its width from the device width and not zoom out just to try to show the whole content of the page. And also, you're telling the browser to not zoom out by setting the initial scale to 1. Okay. And there is a nice example for that to actually visualize it in the W3 schools. Meta, and in that case, Meta Viewport. The name is the name of the Meta here, Meta Viewport, and they have nice picture to show you what is the difference. Here we go. I give you the line. So this is a web page without using this line, which is, you see, like the picture is zoomed out and you need to zoom in with your fingers to take a look at the page. But if you're using that line, that you are not going to zoom out, you're going to make the width of the mobile phone is the browser width. So the width of the browser is coming from the device width, doesn't matter which device is. And the initial scale to be 1, and instead of zooming out, you should have this result instead of this result. And of course, I believe this one is much better than your web page look like this in a mobile devices, right? So that's what is this line for, is to make your pages look better for smaller screens or scale correctly in a smaller screens. Again, if you understand it, it's not a big deal. We're not trying to build responsive apps in this 4-day mini bootcamp. By the way, here, let's explore the font family. I'm going to create my style tag. And I will select my paragraph. So we need a selector, which in that case, the paragraph. I will set font family. And look what happened. Once you put the font family, it will list you multiple font stacks. So you don't need to memorize any of the font names. So you see you have here multiple font stacks that you can select any of them. So let's select, for example, this one. And you will notice it will start with one type, a fallback type if the Arial is not installed in my system. And finally is the generic type, which is the sans serif. That's mean with no decoration. The font will not going to have any decorations on it. If I save that, now it's not saved, save it. Let me open side by side. Oops, cancel. Let me clear. Open that with live server. You see that the font of this text change. And if you can change it again, you can remove everything, press Control space to get the list of the fonts. Let's select this font instead. You see now the font of the text changed. I can select a different one, pressing Control space, and I can get this one. And this one have 1, 2, 3, 4 fonts and a generic name. You can always select the Time New Roman here. As you can see, this is a serif type of text. Serif because it's have all the decoration of the characters. So you can easily select a font family to your web page using the font family property. Okay. So the font family of a text is set with the font family property. More
What
than
if you
one
want to
font,
bold it?
that's the font weight. It's a different property.
Okay.
Yep. We're going to get to the font weight a little bit. So more than one font family is specified in a comma separator list. So as you can see, we can always separate them with a comma. If the browser doesn't support the first font, it tries the next one. If the browser is not supporting the Arial, it will fall back in the Times. If it's not supporting the Times, it will get any font as long as it's serif type. Serif type means it will not going to have any decorations in the characters. Any question about the font family before we explore another property here? It's clear? Good. Styles, how you can style. Style is technically how you can make it italic font or normal font. By default is normal. So the font is used to set the font style italic or oblique. This property have 3 values: the normal, italic, or oblique. The italic, the text is shown in italics. The text is learning, similar to italic, but less supported. Usually, I never use this. It will view the same as italic. So technically for me or any other developer, you have only 2 values, either normal text or italic text. Okay. And I'll show you when you use this value as an oblique, it looked pretty much the same, but it's not only look the same, it is less supported by different browsers. So why would I use it if it's less supported? So now this is the font style. Let me open the document. font style. By default, it's normal. So if I put normal, nothing changed. Italic. Do you see now the font get changed? And actually, let's make the font bigger so you can see it. You can change the size of the font by font size. And let's make it 36 pixels. Okay, so let me comment this line so you can see the difference. That's a normal. That's an italic. Normal, italic. Okay, now let's put the other one, oblique. It's pretty much the same thing. And it's working here in Chrome, but it's have less support in different browsers. And you never know if it's going to work with Internet Explorer or not. So it's better if you want an italic font to use the italic value instead of oblique. Italic. Okay, so that's for the style of the font. Here's an example. This is normal. This is italic, and the oblique one pretty much the same when you use them. So the font style is used to set the font style italic or oblique. Font size, I just use it. You can set any value of pixels to make it bigger. You increase the number of pixels, the font get bigger. So you can use the font size to set the size of the text. You can set the font size in pixels, EMs, rems, view widths, or percentage. Percentage definitely is going to be from percentage in our case of the screen widths. Okay, let me explore the rem really quick. Do you remember yesterday when I said what is the default size of the screen? Size of the font inside the browser? I said that default size of a text in the browser is 16 pixels. Yep. Now, when I put 1 rem is a value, 1 rem will be equal 16 pixel. If I use 1.5 rem, that will be equal 1.5 times 16, whatever that number in pixels. Okay, if I put 2 rem, it will be equal 2 times 16, which in that case is going to be 22 pixels. Okay, so rem is relative to the default size of the browser. Okay, ems, it's causing a lot of trouble because R here is referred to the root, which is your body. The whole document size, the default is 16. But if you try to use M, you will get very, very confused because it's dependent on the parent element. So you need to know what is the font size of the parent element, and the parent element could be in another element, and you keep multiplying all these numbers and cause a lot of confusions in that case. That's why me personally, I don't use M's at all. It can get you in a lot of trouble. I use a lot of rems. I think it's a good system. 1.5, you know that your root is the 16. And you can take multiple sizes of that. And the reason for that, you know, be like, okay, if it's going to calculate it to pixels, why would I use it? Because if you go to the settings of your browser, and appearance, this is the font size, right? So the font size is the medium, which is the default one, which is 16 pixel. And if you use all the font in your page relative to that one, that means if somebody that he can't read small text or that medium, or he having trouble viewing your page and he want a bigger text, then he can set this to large or very, very large. And once he set it to large or very large, your text is relative to the root size. So now if he set it to large, it's not going to be 16 anymore. It's probably going to be 18 or 20. So your text is going to get bigger. But if you hard code your text or the font size to be, for example, 16 pixel, doesn't matter if he make the page large or very large, it will always be small. And let me show you that in action. Let me hard code the font size here to 16 pixels. Okay. So that's the font size. Let's say I can't see that. I need to go to my browser. I'm not talking about the zoom, I'm talking about the settings here. And you go to the appearance, and instead of medium, I want to set it to very large. Now the text is very large. You go here, and it's not making this text large. It's going to be always 16 pixel. Doesn't matter if you change the setting of the browser. Okay. So how can I make it change with changing the settings of the browser? Is, and instead of using 16 pixels, I'm going to use 1 rem. And now, once I save that here, you see now the text get bigger. 1 rem is 16 pixel if the size was medium. But now you're changing the size of the screen. Your text of this paragraph is more changing when you change the size of the screen. Now I make it medium. Now it's small. Make it very large. Now you see the size here is changing, and that's very helpful. So you make your page is more dynamic to adapt any changes in the settings of the browser. That's why rem is definitely you can use them. But again, pixels, if you're new and you're using pixels, are pretty much no problem. 16 pixels. Just want to show you what is the advantage of using rems. Now I'm fixing it to 16 pixel, so it will be always 16 pixel. Doesn't matter when you change the size or the font size in the browser settings in that case. Okay, that's on the side note, just to know why would you use rems instead of pixels. So is equal to the current font size, the default text size in the browser is 16 pixel if the browser is in a medium size. So the default size is 1 rem is 16 pixels. You can use view widths, which mean a viewport widths. So this is my viewport. That's the size of the width of my screen. And let's say this is, I'm just going to give an example, 1000 pixels. Now I can set my fonts to be a percentage on this 1000 pixel. For example, I can put 2% of my view width. 2% of 1000 pixel is going to be, in that case, 20 pixels. Because this is in pixels. So now every time I change the size of my screen by minimizing it, minimize the widths, the font size will be changed as well. The screen is big, the font size is big. So it's relative measurements as well. So let's take a look at this. Let me open it. So instead of 16 pixel, I'm going to put 2 view widths. So here we go. Every time I increase, you see now the font getting bigger, 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 because the width of my screen getting bigger. Now the width is getting smaller, the font is getting smaller. The width is getting bigger, the font is getting bigger, smaller, because it's relative to the width of my browser. In that case, the width is small, the text is small. The width is big, the text is big. And it's a percentage, 2% of my view width. I can change it to 10%. Now, that will be 10% of my view width. Okay. Just gonna comment this. Font size, I can put it 1 rem. So you know that 1 rem. Pixel. Okay, that's for the sizes. In this example, you have the first paragraph where the font size is 50%. In that case, you have 50% over here of its original size. I think, let's try the 50%. So let me put here 50%. And let's take a look at the document. So this is 50%. If I inspect it, keep in mind, it's originally 16. I wanted 50% of the 16. And if you inspect here, you go here and you will see it, the computed, the font size is 8. Why 8? Because 8 is half of the 16. I set it to be 15% of its original size, right? 8 is half of the 16. Now I can make it less. Well, if you want a bigger than its original size, I can make it 150. So it's going to be 1.5 times from its original size. So 1.5 times is going to be 16 plus 8, which is going to give you 24. Right? So definitely you can use percentage relative to the original size of the font, which was 16 pixels. So that's percentage. You can use fixed pixels, which in that case 24 pixels, which is 1.5 times of the original paragraph size, which is this one. You can use 1 rem, which is the original size. I mean, it's using M. Here, M is not a big deal because your parent is the body, and you didn't set a font size to the body. So if I set font size, let's say I did the size of the body 24 pixels, and I'm using 1M. So in that case, this paragraph will be not 16, it will be 24 pixels, since I changed the font size of the parent of that paragraph. M is always looking for the parent size, not the root size. That's why they are a little bit confusing. So all the values, you can use them for font size. Font weight. Here, that was your question, Tanya, how you can make the font bolder. You can use the font weight, and you can put 2 different types of values. You can put a text value describing how you want to bold it or lighter. So you can use bold or bolder, light or lighter, or you can use a numeric number, and the numeric number is multipliers of 100. So 100 is the lighter text weight you can use. 900 is the most boldest text you can use, and they vary by hundreds. So the next one is 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700, and 900. So you can use numeric values, or you can use a word values like lighter, bold, and bolder. And again, you don't need to memorize that here. I can put font weight, so the weight of the font, and you see here the list, 100, 200, 300, 100 is going to be light. So if I take a look, this is light. I want to change it to make it a little bit bolder. 200 is still going to be light, by the way. 300. Anything over 400, you start to see how it's getting bolder. So let's put See, now it's a little bit bolder. 600. Now we can see it's getting bolder. 700. It's more. 800. 900 is the latest. So you can use also text, bold or bolder. This is bold or bolder. You can use light. Actually, it's only lighter. Okay, lighter. You can use normal. Just for me, in that specific type of text, let's put it down there. They look pretty much the same, the light and the normal to me. Okay, let's change the text, the font type. Okay, now we can see some different. So this is the normal. This is lighter. Bolder. They look all this pretty much same. And again, if you don't have the different variants of the font in your system, you're not going to see the differences when you do bolder. Select a different font. Go. That's bolder, bold, lighter, and normal. Okay, so you always can, of course, you can use the numeric numbers, which is 100. And you can see differences over 500 or 600. And of course, you have the 900 one. Okay, so that's how you can make the font bold using the font weight property. Font variant. It's not that I use it a lot. Font variant define a text to be displayed in a small caps fonts. A lowercase letter are converted to uppercase letter, but in a smaller font size. Well, it's there, but it's not that popular to use this property because you will have everything in capitalized like this, welcome to Clarusway, and it will transform your text. You see here the E in lowercase. Now the E is in the uppercase, so it will shift everything to uppercases, and the very first letter will be bigger in size corresponding to the rest of the letters. And that's called small caps. So font variant, and you have here normal or small caps, and of course you can inherit. Small caps. Here we go. Hello world. The H's, everything is capitalized, but the very first letter here is bigger than the rest of the text. That is what they call small caps. Okay, before we move forward, any questions so far? I know it's a lot of properties to memorize, but questions?
Yes, quick question. So is it true that if you're not using your symbols, you can, like, let's say on line 22, if you need to just put a reference note, you can just type a note and it won't appear on your website?
Yeah, you can use a comments. This is a comment. This is a comment in the CSS. And to create a comments or a note, you just press Control and /, and it will give you that thing, and then I can put my note here.
Okay, Control /. Thank you.
You're welcome. That's how you can put notes. For example, I can say this is my web page. That tells me you already missed a couple of the classes, right, Tanya? Because we went over this.
Yeah, because
okay.
I'm in the other cohort, so
it's okay.
Having,
We have it recorded. If you have time, definitely go back and check. And we explain everything here in details. You see here, I put this as my web page, and if you open it in the browser, open it in live server. It's not opening, so I can actually open the folder and open my page here. You see, it's not the text, the comment that I put here. This is my web page. Since it's a comment, it's not going to be in my page. Okay. Now, let me show you something related to the fonts, how you can get an online font or a font from Google Fonts and use it in your page. Okay. So if you search Google Fonts, because they have nice and good fonts that you can pick any font that you want and you can use it in your web page. So if you search Google Fonts, and you go to the first link, not this one, developers.google fonts. Yeah. Nope. Yeah, this is on, but not about. It's just simply fonts.google.com. And you will have a list of all the fonts that you can use, and you can see how they look like. Like, for example, if you want to use that font in your web page, definitely you can use it. And you have the name of the font over here. And you can search for any font. So I can type in anything. Like I usually use Roboto. That's why they give me the option here as Roboto. This is close to the same font they used in the Mac OS. And this is the standard Google application font. So most of Google applications are using Roboto font. So I will use that font. I would like to use that font. So all you need to do is just click in it. And once you click in it, you will have different variances of that font. So if you want the font thin, which is 100, thin italic, and definitely you can select all of them by pressing the plus here. I want to select all the types of that font. Okay. And once you select all of them, it will give you this list. Here, it will tell you how you want to import this font in your page using a link tag. So they will provide you with the link tag here. And now all you need to do is just take a copy of these two link tags and paste it in your web page. Or you can use import. So the link here in the HTML, if you want to use the import statement, it's going to be in the CSS, and you can use either or. Okay. So I will use the import because it's usually less, and you will see that you put them inside the style. So it's inside the CSS. So I can copy these lines and put it in my style here. Save it, and you see the text going all the way to the right, and I can do view word wrap. Perfect. So I can wrap the text. I don't have the scroll bar down there. So now this is an online font that's hosted by Google APIs, but you're importing that, you're fetching that font to use it in your page. And the good part about fonts, once you fetch them, they get cached inside the browser. So every time your application is going to start again, or your web page is going to start again, it's not going to go and get it from Google, it's going to be already cached inside your browser. So your page will be load much faster every time. So I get the font. And if I try to take a look right now, open it with live server, it's pretty much the same. So what is the difference here? The difference is, yes, you get the font, but you're still in the font family using a completely different font. So you have to use a font family with the font that you just imported. How can I do that? Can Google help me? Yes, Google can help you. It is this line here. It tells you what is the name of the font that you should use. CSS rules to specify families. In that case, Roboto, which is the name of the font that we imported. So I can copy that line and instead of that one, I'm going to comment it, put it here. And now you see that the font get changed to the Roboto font that I get it from Google. Nice. Now I'm not only restricted with the fonts that my system have, but or the user that I'm building the web page for, I can get any fonts that I want since that font is available online. And it's going to be fetched in your app and you can use it right away. Okay. So I just want to show you that. I want to show you another thing that we're going to use it a lot in the today class or in today project. You can use something called text align. Text align. Text align will align your text. You want to center this text, you can use text align. Text align to the center. It will be in the center. Text align to the right. So it will be in the right. Text align to the left, which is the default. It's going to be in the left. Very, very straightforward. Text align, you can center your text with text align. Any question about text align? Very easy. CSS property. What about some other stuff we're going to use today as well? If I have an A tag here, my link. This is my link. And I'm going to put an href. That's not going to go anywhere. Okay. Now I want to style this link. I'm going to give it a border. And I'm going to use the shorthand of 2 pixels, solid green. So now you're going to have a border here surrounding this link. And that's a question to you guys based on yesterday class. If I get a padding of 20 pixels here, you have the padding. Yeah, that's fine. But forget about the padding. What if I give it a width of 100 or 50 pixels, or let's do 100 pixels? Why it's not taking the width here? Do you guys remember that? Why the width is not applying to this link? What about the height?
Because it's not a column element.
It's not a block level element, right? So this is inline element, and inline elements, you can use width and height with them. So if you remember, I told you the solution here is to use display and block, right? And in that case, the width and height will take an effect. But there's actually another solution which will allow you to use width and height and keep this somehow, it's the best of both worlds. It's called inline block. So it will stay in line, but will take an effect with width and height and all the properties for block elements. So somehow it's in between. Okay, that's something I want to show you. Okay. What if this underline here, it's look ugly and I want to remove it? To remove an underline from your link, I'm just going to go with the padding here again. To move an underline here, use a property called text decoration, because that's how the text get decorated by using this underline. So text decoration, and text decoration, you have line through. That's mean if you strike through line. So if check this out, you see the line now is in the middle of the text. Or you have over line, so the line will be over the text. Or you have the underline and the line, which is the default of the link. So to remove this underline, I can use none, that I don't want any decoration for my text. And by doing that, it will remove the underline here. All right. So text decoration, none. Text decoration will control the underline, overline, line through a text. We covered the border yesterday, right? The last property that I want to cover with you before we start the project is the corners of the border. You can curve them, and instead of have hard corners like this. So you can control the curvature of the corners of your borders. How you can do that? The property called border radius. And you could use a pixel or percentage. So let's use a pixel. I'm going to use 20 pixels, and look what's going to happen. You see now the curvature of the corners of the border. Now it's curved. If I reduce the number, it's going to be less curved. I can use 5. I can use 1. I can use 0. And I can use 50. Okay, so you can control the curvature of the corner of your border. You can use 4 values here. So 50, 30 pixel, 20 pixel, 10 pixels. And it will look something like this. Okay, why? Because it starts from here, 50, 30, 20, and 10. Or it can take 3 values, or 2 values, or 1 value. What if I want to make it a circle? Then you can simply use a percentage. So I can do border radius 50%, and it's not going to be a circle, exact circle, and I'm going to show you why. It's going to be like an oval. What if I want to make it an exact circle? To make it an exact circle, or to draw a circle, the width should be similar to the height, same number, and then you round it up with the border radius 50. And in that case, you're going to get a circle. So let's do that. So, and instead of using padding, I'm going to use width 100 pixel, and the height to be 100 pixels, which is equal to the width. And in that case, I get a full circle, as long as the width and the height is equal and border radius is 50%. So the corners will be 50% of the border, and you get a full circle. Okay. So the only technically here, I'm just going over 3 different properties. Text align, to control where the text should be in the screen. Is it in center, left and right? Text decoration, to remove the underlines, and the border radius, to control the curve or the corner of the border radius. Okay. Any questions? Any questions on how you can get fonts from Google Fonts? Okay. Why I went over this?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, can you go over the Google fonts again? I kind of missed it. I wasn't here.
Sure. All you need to do, go to www.fonts.google.com. It's not fonts.google, so search for fonts. Yeah, it's fonts.google.com. Yeah, here. You search for any fonts that you want. So I can put Z, D. Let's say you want this font. So you click on it. You select all the fonts or any variant of the font. You want the light, you want all of them. You can start selecting them. It's like you're doing shopping. Once you select the font that you want, and you will have a list here, remove all styles. Okay, you click here, and now it will show you, you want to link it to your HTML page, or you want to import it inside your CSS file. For me, I like to use the import. And you take this import statement, you take it and copy it in your CSS, or if you're not using CSS and using style tag, you paste it here. And once you paste it, it will tell you down there how you're going to use it. Now, in the font family property, here's the name of the font. The first font that I'm importing is Lota. So you can technically take this line, copy it, and paste it here. In my case, since I'm imported Roboto, I'm using font family Roboto, and my fallback will be on sans serif fonts, generic type. Does that make sense? You follow that?
Okay. Yeah, I think I got it. Let me try it out.
Yeah, try it, and I'll do it for the project as well, because I'm going to use fonts for the project. So before we go to break, let's see what are we going to be building today. Okay. We're going to build a very, very basic portfolio web page. I want you to see what we're going to be building before we get start and working on it after the break. So it looks like this. Very simple web page or a portfolio web page. This is the name of the developer, John Doe, full stack developer. And you have this image, his image, then you have some text about him. Of course, I put lorem ipsum text. Then you can update this text with an actual meaningful text. You have a list here of all the social media. So that's his GitHub account and their actual links. So if you click on it, it will take you to the GitHub account. And this will take you to his LinkedIn, Facebook, and his YouTube channel. Down there, you will see we have some animated image. You see it's get animated. It's a GIF. Is about the services that this person provides, and a link to all the services. And finally, about this person, some his text, some about him, like what is his backstory, and a link here to view his resume. And if you click on the link, it's just a dummy PDF, but you see you can upload your resume in the page, and when you click on it, it will load the PDF on a different tab. And of course, we're going to have the footer. Very, very basic web page that will make use of the links or images as links in that case. Of course, you see there is images. I will show you how you can use GIFs. Any GIF image, actually, it's going to be animated in your page. And you will see how we center stuff and do all this kind of tricks. Any question? Do you guys like it?
Yes.
Yes.
All right.
You're going to go slow, right?
Yes. Yes, go ahead, Toma.
Yes, sorry, I was wondering, you told us concerning the images that we should always select the ones that are not on copyrights. For the
That's
Google, yes, for the Google that you just took us through now, fonts that we could select from, I want to believe there are no copyrights as well.
For this, because I'm not going to publish this. So technically, I'm not going to publish it or use it for commercial reasons. So it's fine. I'm just getting some images here and use them. But if you're going to publish them or actually host them on a server online, you don't want to get in trouble and use copyrighted images. For me, I just get some images for the YouTube, Facebook, Indeed, and GitHub. I believe that person image wasn't copyrighted. But yeah, technically.
How about the Google link, Google fonts that you, the other?
No. That's absolutely,
docs.
that's absolutely free. Provided by Google for developers. There's nothing wrong with that. Google provides a lot of resources for developers, and you can see I'm using here the font Roboto as well.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so it's a good time to take our break right now. Let's take a 15-minute, and once we get back from the break, we're gonna start putting together everything we learned in a project to build that portfolio web page from the scratch, and you get to know how you can put stuff together to get a web page or to create a full web page as a project. Okay, so I'll be back exactly 8:20. Okay, so technically it's 19 minutes. It's 14 minutes, not exactly 15 minutes. I'll see you guys exactly 8:20. Okay, so let's start the project. But before we start, let's go over how we're going to organize this project. So what I will do, you need to divide it logically. I have one part here that I'm going to call it the header, which is only include this heading and this subheading. That's it. This is the second part, which is the banner. Let's have the image, have some text, and the social links. The third part here is the services, which is having this GIF image and some text and a bind. So that's the third and the bind. And then the fourth part is about me, which is have an image, some text, and a bind that will link to your resume, and finally the footer. So you have to divide it logically to different parts, and each part is a separate div, separate category about the page itself. Okay, I'll start with the header. Now, create a new folder for that folder. I will open it with Visual Studio Code. With the Visual Studio Code here on one side, and have the web page on one other side. Close the starting screen. Start create my files, having the, you can call the HTML file whatever you want. I'm going to call it index. That's the most popular name for any HTML file. And in the index here, I will create a boilerplate and change the title, my web site, something like that. And of course, don't forget to make view word wrap to wrap all the text. And I can minimize it a little bit. You guys can see that text. You're okay with that text, with the size of this text? Or do you want me to make it bigger? Okay. Now, I want to start with this, with the header part. So I'm going to create a div here. And this div, I'm going to give it an ID of header. And in this header, I have an H1 with the name of the person, John Doe, and I will have heading level 2 saying full stack developer. And that's it. That's all the markup or all the structure I need for the header. All I need now is just to style it in the same way that I have here. To start the styling, I will create another file for the CSS. I can call it main.css. Because in real life, you probably have multiple than one CSS file. You probably have main CSS file, you have CSS file for mobile devices. You're going to have multiple of CSS files. But in that case, I'm saying that this is the main styling sheet for my web page. The first thing you need to do in any style sheet is to reset the browser default. As I mentioned before, the browser will have some default margin and padding for many of the elements like the H1, the paragraph, the links. There is default margin and padding that the browser will give to your element. You want to remove that for all the elements. And to select all the elements, you use the universal selector. And now you want to set all the margins for all the elements to be 0. And actually, before we do the resetting, let me show you how this page looks like right now. And after the resetting, how it's going to look like. So it should open right here. You see, this is the H1, this is the H2. There is some spacing, some margins here, which is defaulted by the browser. And I forget actually to link my styling sheet. So it's a good thing that to link it, we need the link tag to make the connection between the CSS file and the HTML file. And now you have to put the name of the CSS file in the href, which is main.css. Now you linked this CSS with the HTML file. Since you linked them, now I can start by resetting the default styling of the browser for the elements. So I'm going to select all the elements. I want to set the margin to 0, the padding to 0, and also I want to use for all the elements box sizing border box. Notice what's going to happen here once I save that. The default styles that the browser will give the H1 and H2 will go away. Oops, save here. See now the margins. There is no more margins here. Good, because I am as a developer, I want to control the margins, not the browser. Okay. Now, I want to change the font. I don't like this font. This is the default font by the browser, which is, I believe, Times New Romans. Which I don't know, most of the browsers using that as the default font. So I can go to Google Fonts. So it's fonts.google.com. And I can remove everything that I had before. Let's just show you from the beginning. Remove all. So now I don't have any selected fonts. And the font that I want to use is Roboto, which is here. But I want to show you that you can search for a font. So Roboto, you have multiple versions of Roboto. I will use the original one here. You can select all the styles. So I get the 400. I want to also get the italic. You can select all of them. The bolded font, the thin font. And once you select all of them, you can click on this icon, view the selected families, and double check that this is all your selection. And you can use the link tag in the HTML file, or I can use the import tag So I can copy the import tag without the style. Don't copy the style tag, just the import at import URL, and it's have the URL of the font. You copy the line, copy it, and you go back here in the top of the CSS file, you can paste it. And of course, view word wrap. So this is the import statement that take a URL. This is the URL where they're gonna fetch this font from the Google web page. This font will be fetched inside your CSS file. So now I can use the font. How can I use it? Using this rule that they provided to me here. So I can copy this line, and I want to use it inside the body of my document. So the body, which is my HTML document, I want to set the font family to be Roboto. Once I save that, you go to the page here, you will notice that the font get changed now, and it's the Roboto font. Okay. What else we want to do? We want to change the background color. How we can change the background color? I will go now select the header because I give it an ID header. So I will select the header. I can put comments to myself here, header, styling, or CSS. I select the header as with the ID, so I'm using the hash here. And I can set the background color to gray. It's a dark gray, but you can, instead of using text, if you hover over the color, you will see there is an RGB value, which is red, green, blue value, or you can click here and you can use a hex value. So in CSS, you can provide multiple values of, you can describe the color with multiple ways, RGBA, hex code, or word. For me, I like to use the hex here, and then I can select the shade of the gray that I want. So I can test, like, let's say this light gray, control save, and you will have that. If you hover over again, you can make any changes. You can also go to the red, so you don't have to memorize the code, the color code in that case. If you're trying to do a duplicate of a site like this, you have a nice extension that you can use to get the color codes of a certain website. So the extension that you can use for your Google, it's called Color Pick Eyedropper. It's a Google Chrome extension. It's a very, very nice. As a developer, you need to use that extension. I'm going to show you how to use it. So you go here, you add the extension, add it to the Chrome, add the extension, and this is the extension. You should have it in your extensions. While it get added, here we go. You will see it here. Now I have this extension. So how you can use this extension? Let's say you're trying to make a duplicate of this web page, and you want to use the same color here. So you can select this color dropper. Actually, let me pin it. Okay. Okay, here we go. So it will going to give you this cursor, and it will provide you what is the color code number. It tell me now that the color code is E2DFDF. This is the code for that color. If I want to use the color code for this, it's going to be DDEDFF. So I want to use the same shade of gray here that I used before. So I can click here, and it's this one. I can copy it, and I can paste it here. And of course, you have to put a hashtag in front of it, indicating that this is a hex value. Okay, so once I save that, I'm using the same shade of gray here. For the text color, I want to use a shade of a darker gray. And I have that on top of my head because it's easy. If you want to always use shades of gray, it's always equal. So if you put 333, it's a gray. 222 is gray or a dark gray. CCC, AAA, DDD, as the three values equal to each other, it will always be a shade of gray. So here, dark gray is 333. So that's the color I have. I can put them in the center using text. Center, text align, center. Save that, and you have it here in the center. But let me show you now what is the problem. I want to center. I want to give some space in the top here, space in the bottom here. How can I do that?
With margins?
Margin, let me try to do padding.
Okay.
50, because if you do margin, let's try margin. Margin is the outside space.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So we want between the text and this gray background. So let's do margin 50 pixels, and notice what's going to happen. That's not what I want. I want padding, the space between the text and the edges of the div. So I will use padding. So padding, let's say 50 pixels. There you go. So I'm happy with that. Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Please, can you show again how you open this CSS page?
This CSS?
Yes, the main CSS page.
Yeah, it's open here. Or you want to
Can
see
you show
that?
again? Yes, can you show again how you opened it?
Share a link? I'm sorry, I'm not sure. You want me to paste the code?
Can you show us again how you opened the page, the file for the main CSS?
Okay. To open it or to create a main CSS, you create a new file, main.css.
Yes.
Once you create it, you have to use the link tag here to make the link between the CSS and the HTML file. To open the web page in the server from the HTML file, you right click and select Open with Live Server. And once you do that, you start putting any CSS codes right here. So the very first code that I did is resetting the page. Browser, CSS. Second, I set the font of the whole page to be Roboto font, which is the font that I imported from Google. Third, I start selecting the header, and I use the hashtag header because I'm having here a div with an ID header.
Can you keep it on this page for one moment?
Sure. Is that answer your question? Or?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Again, if you have errors or anything, I'll be more than happy to walk you through the errors at the end of the class and see what you did wrong. But again, you will have all the codes available after the class as well. Okay. Now, what I want to do, and I don't want to keep doing that for every single element, because the way I look at it, there is some content inside this div, and there is some content inside this div. And now I can control the width of this content to keep all the widths uniform, okay, for every single section. So what I can do, can create a div here and wrap all my content with it and give it a class of content, for example. And the reason of that, I'm doing that because I'm going to wrap everything in every single section of my page with that content class. And all I need to do is just style it once. I don't have to keep repeating my styling for every single section. So I'm going to close the div here. So now this content, which is currently have the text or the two headers, which is this two headers. So visually, it's not going to affect anything. You're just adding the h1 and h2 inside a class that's called content. Okay, but now this content is the one that I'm going to use the text align center, the padding 50. I'll extract this here. Use class of the content. Paste that here, and I should have no differences. Everything should look fine. I will set the widths because later on I will have text that might take the full size, the width of any content to be, let's say, 60% of the page. Now it's 60%. And I want to margin auto to center them. Now it's centered back. So any content I will have, I want it to be 60% of the page, and it's centered inside the page using the margin auto. And of course, all of them to have padding of 50 pixels. So now I have a class that I can apply to multiple sections, not only the first section. And I can select change the font size. Why not? Font size 18 pixels. Because I want the size of this text to be not 16. If there is a text inside my content, to be 18 pixels. So in that case, it's not going to affect my heading here. Okay. Now let me target this H1 that inside my header. How can I select that? I want to select this H1 that inside my header div. Which is this one. This H1 that inside the header div with an ID div. What do you guys think? Can I put it this way? Header space H1. Is that going to work? That's mean I'm saying that I want to target the H1 that inside a div with an ID header. Is that going to work? Okay, yeah, that definitely will work. I'm targeting the H1 that inside an element with an ID of header. And now I want to set its font size to be, let's say, 50 pixels. Now it's big. I can even make it 60 pixels. Good.
Hey, Alfred, I'm having trouble with where it says where you have a line 18 margin auto.
Mm-hmm.
Mine is not populating the auto. Why?
Do you put the semicolon here?
Yeah.
No or yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, let me try it again. Let me.
Because if I remove that, you see now I have errors here. So make sure that all the statements are ending with a semicolon.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Okay, again, this wildcard, It's selecting all the elements in my page. The dot means a class that have the name content, which now I have a class content. The hashtag means ID header, which I have an ID attribute header. So you have a classes as a selector, IDs, and all the elements. Classes is dot. All the elements is asterisk. So if you hover over it, it's going to be the elements. This is a class content. So an element was a class content. And this one is an element with an ID header. Okay. Any other questions, guys? Now, if I want to select the paragraph, not the paragraph, the H2, this H2, that inside my header, how can I select it here?
Wouldn't it be the same way you did the H1?
Yeah, header, H2, and I can do font size. Let's do 18 pixels. And I want to do the font weight to be normal. I don't want it to be bolded. Okay, it's not doing anything because that's, but anyway, so it looked fine to me. So technically, this is the CSS for the header. Okay. We just changed the background, we changed the color of the text, we played around with the sizes, and definitely we changed the font family, and we changed it for the whole page in that case, not for specific elements. And we created that class that called content that will be responsible for centering all my element, that I can reuse it for every single section, that will center them, and will make sure that it will take only 60% of my page, and the text of them will be always 18 pixels. Okay, now I need to work on this section, which is called the banner. And to work in this section, I need a couple of images. I need the person image, some images for my links here, so I can go and try to search for these images. I already download them. Oh yeah, yep. The font size here. This is should be font weight. My bad. That's small. Yeah. Now, because I was wondering why it's not making it normal size. I mean, normal weight. So next, I want to get my images, and I believe I download them. Let me go to. Gonna delete them. Gonna delete everything here. Just want to walk you through how you can download them together. Let me search now for person image. And you can go to images and select any person image. It's not a big deal, which that's the image that I get, and you can open it. You can save it as, right click, save it as. And I'm gonna go to the project that I have. I can create a new folder, call it images, to have all the images inside here. And I'm renaming the image person or profile. Save. Now I have the image. Now let's get the images for the social media. I'll get Facebook, circle, transparent. And if I open, I need to visit since I want it to be transparent, and I click download. This is an ad. It will start downloading in 9 seconds. That's fine. Let it wait. And beside the circle, Facebook, I need LinkedIn. Which I'm going to use this one. Visit the page, because you want to visit the page itself to download it. If you try to download it, right click and save, it will lose the transparency of the background. So you want to go actually here and download it. Get the full resolution. It's SVG. I'll get this one. Now, let me try this one. Here you go, free download. That's what I want. I got the LinkedIn icon. Now let's search for YouTube. Let's visit the page. No, it's not. Visit this page. There you go. We got download PNG. It's going to be downloading after 6 seconds. Can close all of that. And the last one is going to be the GitHub. So I'm going to use this image. Visit. Download the PNG. And you're going to be downloading it. Download here. And I have the YouTube. So I got the social media, everything downloaded. Show in the folder. Now this is, I already have it. Show in the folder. This is the download folder. I can copy everything here. And I can drag them inside my VS Code, which is currently have the image and it have the profile image, because I created that folder here. If you don't have this folder, you can create the folder here and add the profile image to it. But now I want to add all the social media images. You can drag them to that folder. Here we go. And we can rename them. So can rename this one FP, short for Facebook. Rename this one GitHub. This one is LinkedIn. And the last one is YouTube. YouTube. All right, so I get all my image assets. The only image that I left is the animated image that I have in my page here, which is this image. And all I searched for was services GIF. GIF usually are animated images, and you can get any animated images from online with the extension GIF. So I can services GIF transparent background. And you will have multiple images and you can see how they animate. So for example, this one, see she's blinking her eyes. You see this one, this is look like a nice one as well. You can use this one. Not sure which one I used. See how they are animated, nice animation. Anyway, I have the one that I used actually opened here in my second screen. So I'm just going to drag it here. It's called services. I'm going to put it here. And this is the one that I used. And I'm going to paste it as well in the class chat. So if you want to download it, let me do that. So I just pasted inside the class chat, but it's not allowing me. Okay, let me try to do it here. I pasted in the class. Oops, my bad. Let me do it for everybody. In the Zoom chat, you should find the file, the GIF that I'm using right now. It's in the Zoom chat. You can download it and use it as I'm using it right now. Okay, so these are all the assets that I'm gonna need in my page, all the images that I'm gonna need in my page. Now I wanna start, I'm done from the header. I can minimize this, so it's not gonna be a distraction for me, and start using another div here that I'm gonna give it an ID of banner. And the banner, technically it have an image, and this image, it's gonna have a source of, pay attention to this part. This is the index.html, right? The images are not in the same directory. They are inside in another folder that called images. Okay, so you need to access the images folder to access the image. You can put that here by using the dot. Dot means in the current directory of the index. So dot is the current directory, and we want to go inside. So it's going to be /, and you will see Visual Studio Code give you the list of the stuff that in the current directory. So dot /, and I want to get inside the images folder, and it will list all the images. I want to access the profile image. So since it's not in the same directory as the index.html, you can't just put the name of the image and that's it. No, you need to navigate to inside the other folder. So it's dot / images / profile.jpg. I can give it an alt text, an alternative text, in case the image is not going to be loaded. I can say profile image. And I will give it a title. So when the user hover over it, it will show him a pop-up text, say, put the name of the person, which is John Doe. Save that. Oops. Let me close this. Here we get a big image, but that's fine for now. This is the output. Beside the image, I want some text. So the text here, I'm going to add a paragraph. And in this paragraph, I will add dummy text, which I'm going to use lorem time is 3. So I'm going to add 3 paragraphs. So now I added 3 paragraphs. So I have the text here. Okay. I forget actually to wrap all of this stuff with the content class that I generated. So I will do that. Dev. Put everything inside that div, which will have a class of content. Save. And if you remember, the content will be 60% of the widths, and it will center everything. And I should see that right now in effect. And now you see it's 60%, and it's centered inside the page. So the content class is taking effect right now. Good. But how can I get this look like this to look like this? It's not that hard. I'm going to work with the image first. You just put lorem and you multiply by 3. And that will generate 3 dummy paragraphs for you. Now I want to work on this image that currently exists inside the banner div. So I can go here. Actually, I'm going to give this image an ID as well, because I'm going to have other images and I want to target this specific image. So I can call it profile image. And now I can put a comment here, banner CSS, target the banner, and target the profile image. This image, it is so big, so I need to specify its width and height. So the width, I'm going to put it 160 pixels, and the height is 160 pixels. And you can play around with these values to make sure, to get you the feeling. If you want to make it bigger, you increase the number. You want to get it smaller, you decrease the number. But now I want this image to be a circle. Do you know what is the property that I should use to circle the image?
You can use the border radius.
Exactly, with 50%, since the width and the height is the same. So border radius 50%, and that should give me a circle image. Nice. Now I want to, if I want to move this image down, which property that I should use? Move it, push it down.
You can use
Margins?
the margin.
Margin, right?
Yes.
Yes. Margin was a positive number, right? That's mean if I'm using a margin with a negative number, it will push it up.
Exactly.
Right? So I want to push this up here. So let's do that. So let's do margin. And in that case, I want to use margin top. And let's start experiment some values like 50 pixel. That's going to push it down. 50 negative pixel, it's going to move it up. Now let's do negative 100 pixel, move it up. Perfect. Actually, this here, this content, I want to make it the padding 50 pixel, auto 60%, H2. Let's add some margin bottom, 20 pixels. Negative 150 pixel. That's too much. 100 pixel. Okay. The only thing, I need more space here, so I can add more margin down here for the H2. Okay, perfect. Now I can do 120, and you see now the 120 is like half of it. Like 30. That's look much better. Okay, but now I want to get the same like this, where you see this white border. It's actually a border, right? So I can add a border to this image in that case. So border, I'm going to use the shorthand, 4 pixels, solid, and I'm going to put the white color, right? That's 4 pixel, and you can change the thickness. I can put 10, and now here we go. We get that kind of trick that it looked like there is a space between the image and the header. And you also learn about the negative margin to push the image up. Okay. It look identical. Definitely you can change the, instead of font weight normal, you can take that out, and you can change, instead of 18, I can make it 24, make it a little bit bigger. Good. Now I want to push the text here a little bit between the image, because you can see the text here and the image here. I can push margin bottom here for the image. Margin bottom. Let's do 25 pixel. Okay, good. I push it down a little bit. Nice. Now let's work on the social media icons. Any question before we start the social media icons? Of course, you can right click and format here. So here, I'm going to use a UL. It's an order list. It's a list of social media icons. And I'm going to give it ID of social list. And each UL will have an LI, list element. And each list element will consist of a link, a tag. And let's say I want to put the first link here to go to the GitHub. So the href will be the https://github.com. And I want to give it a target because I want the user, when they click on it, open it in a new tab. Target equal underscore blank. And now this link will not going to have text. It will have an image. So between the opening and closing of the A tag, I want to add an image. And this image, I want to give it a class of social image. So class social image. I need to give it a source. And the source now is inside the image folder. So I can put // and Visual Studio Code will list to me the current directory where the files and the folders, images, and I'm going to use GitHub. And also I want to use an alt, GitHub link, and I can use a title tag, attribute, GitHub. Save that, and you see the image is very big, but we're gonna style that. But for now, this is a single icon, right? Now I can copy this multiple times down. Total of 4 social icons. So the second one is the LinkedIn. So I will change the URL to LinkedIn. Target blank. The image, it's going to be inside the images folder / LinkedIn image, and change the alt to be LinkedIn. and the title will be LinkedIn. After the LinkedIn, we have the Facebook. So www. Oh, I keep forgetting the www. That's not good. Facebook.com and select the Facebook image, which is fp.png. And finally, the YouTube. And you can change the order, of course. I'll get the image of the YouTube. Inside the images, I'll have the YouTube. And finally, YouTube link. And the title is YouTube. Save that. And if you go here, you'll see all the links with different sizes. And of course, this is a list items. And they're on top of each other because each one of them is a block level. So it will take its own line. It's the whole block. So now I need to do the styling for this social list. So what I'm going to do is first, any image with a class of social image, because I gave all the images social image class, I want to set its width to be 40 pixels, its height to be 40 pixels. And once you save that, you see now you have all of them width and height 40 pixels. But now I want all these links to be right next to each other, not on top of each other. Any idea how can I fix that?
Maybe we can use a display.
The display, and I can use inline block, right?
Yeah.
For the list items, because the list items is the one that I will control. So I can select my social list and the list item inside them, LI, and I want to display them as inline block. And now you're going to be right next to each other. Perfect. I want to give them some margins between each other because each image here, you see they're right next to each other. I can give them some margin, top and bottom, and left and right. So I can do it here. Margin, 2 values. Top and bottom, I want 30 pixels. Left and right, I want 15 pixels. There you go. So you got 30 top and bottom for each single image, and left and right, 15 pixels. And now these links are actually working links. And when you hover over each one, you will have this tooltip or the pop-up, because I'm using the title attribute. So for example, here, if I click, it will open the GitHub account. LinkedIn, it will open my LinkedIn account, the Facebook, and the YouTube as well. Okay. Any questions, guys? That was a big section, but you see the usage of the UL in action and the list items. And now the browser understands that this is a list of icons in that case, because I described them as a list, as a social media list. Questions? Anybody confused so far? Do you feel like you're learning something new with doing this project?
Yes, it's good to make them together.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to minimize the banner because I'm done from the banner. And now I want to go over the services, which is simply an image, some text, and a button. Okay, so I can start that by creating a div. I'm gonna give it an ID of services. And also you can add some comments here for yourself over the banner section, services section, and this is the header section. Okay, so for the services, don't forget we have a wrapper of the content. And now I have an h1 for the services. So I can add an h1 here, services. I have the image, the GIF image. So I'm going to put an IMG. And I'm going to put the source for this image ./images, and it's the services.gif. I'm going to give it an alt or alternative text, our services image. And I'm going to give it a title, our services. Okay, I'm going to add a paragraph, and this paragraph, I'm going to add also 3 paragraphs of placeholders text. Of course, if you're building this for yourself, you want to change this text with some meaningful text. It's like my services will be designing website and doing some UX, UI, UX, doing graphics, anything about the services that you can provide as a freelancer or as a company. But here for me, I'm just adding a placeholder, which is lorem. And also going to add 3 paragraphs, so it's multiplied by 3. And after that, so I have the h1, the image, I have the text. Finally, I want to have this button here. This button is simply a link, and I style it as a button. So I can add a link, and this link will be all services. It's not going to go anywhere. Usually, if you have another page for all the services, you design it with HTML and CSS, and you link the 2 pages together. But right now, I'm just going to add the href to nothing. Save that, and that. What should we have right now? Well, we need to style it. To style that, what I will do, I want to get that color you see where they're standing on to make that the background. So I'm going to use my extension here and go over that color, click on it, get its value, and I'm going to select the services section or CSS, put ID services, and now the background color, I'm going to put the hashtag because it's a hex value, paste the color. And now you see, now you have the color and it's blend with the image very good because I get the color from the image. Okay. So I get this background. Now there is more styling that I need to add here. I want the color of this text, and instead of being black, I want it dark gray. So you can set the color, which is dark gray, which I'm going to use the hashtag 333, which I used it before. So it's a dark gray color, not a black color. Now, this image, I want to put some margin after, and also this H1. So the image, the H1, and this paragraph. So there's three things. I want to put some spaces. I want to put some space here, some space here, some space here, and I can use a margin, right? But I don't want to keep selecting different elements multiple times. So I can target all of them in one time. So I can do the H1 that's inside the services. So the H1 that's inside the services plus, and by adding a comma, the image that inside the services, also the paragraph that inside the services. I want to margin bottom all of this tree to have 25 pixels. And now we added spaces to the header, the image, and also this text. So you select three different elements and you add margin to all the three of them. Okay, that looked good to me. The image itself, we can reduce. No, it should be fine. Do you guys want to make the width smaller or keep it that way? What do you guys think?
I think it's fine.
Okay. All right. Now let's target this link and make it look like a button. So I will target services, the A tag, and I want to display it as inline block. I want to remove the underline here. Do you guys remember what is the property for it?
Text decoration.
Text decoration, exactly.
None.
None, yes. Text decoration, none. Now we don't have that ugly underline. We want to give it some padding. Let's do 10 pixels and we get it. Let's do background color. And we have the Dodger blue, which is this like that type of blue we have here. And we can set the text white. So I can change the color of the text to be white. Good. And I can use the border radius to create curves at the border of this button, similar to this button. So I can use border radius, and I can use 10 pixels. There you go. So now it's look like a button, right? And it's clickable. You can click on it. It's not going to go anywhere because I put here, I set it to, it's just going to go to a hash. But now we have this section. So we built this so far, and we have two more sections to add. Is the About Me, where you're going to link a resume, which is a PDF file, and finally the footer. Any questions so far?
If we want to link the services.
So you would you create another HTML file, call it services.html, and then you put whatever markup you want to do here, and then you link it here.
Okay.
So you go to your services, and instead of that, you just put the services.html. And that's when the user click in the file, you will load the other file.
Okay.
Make sense? But for now, we're not doing that. Okay, let's take a quick break. It's 22, so let's take a 13-minute break. So it's going to be 25, 30. We're going to get back 9:35, so we can tackle the other two sections in our page. And of course, we can minimize this section now since we done from the services section. So we have the header, we have the banner, and we have the services. Any question before we go to break?
Alfred, thank you very much. like I said, I'm a greenhorn in this field.
It's okay.
So it's just a whole lot for me right now. I'm just wondering, like, if I miss, like, I forget one or two steps, and I don't have a prototype like this to, like, kind of remind me, let me take myself back to class where we usually have formulas in the mathematics class. Is there any kind of hint or formula or something that, apart from comments, that could help me, like, trigger my memory or something, like for someone like me?
Okay. For development, when you start, you can always rely in something called cheat sheets. So there is CSS sheets, and they will list all the I don't know. It's like, so you see here, some of the cheat sheets we didn't cover, so I don't want to overwhelm you with many properties that we didn't go over. But definitely there's files that you can have them in hand. But Visual Studio Code, it will help you. Let me go to images. So for example, this is selector. If you want to change a text, you barely can see it actually, but definitely there's some resources and there's a lot of cheat sheets. But let's say you forget how to change the text weight, okay, in CSS, and you want to change. So you're going to type in Google CSS. So that's the first thing.
Okay.
Text weight, or make text bold. Like say CSS, put CSS make text bold. And you see here, you will get the property right away. Font weight.
Yes.
And you click here, font weight. And I was like, font weight, great. Now you go to your your code and type in font weight. You don't have to memorize everything. I forget a lot.
Yes.
It's fine.
Okay.
That you will see me Googling stuff because you have Google, and it's most of the stuff, it's not rocket science. It's everywhere and over the internet, right? It's not top secret information. But again, you stuck with something else, let's say. Let's say make image circle. CSS, you have to be specific. So how to create rounded images, click, and it will give you the image, and it will tell you that the border, exactly as I said in class, hey, the border radius is 50%. How long it took me? A couple of seconds, just describing what I need to do and write CSS afterwards. It gave me exactly what I need to know.
Yeah.
Trust me,
Thank you so much.
to be developer is not about memorizing. It's how to find what you're searching for. That's a huge part to be a developer.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much. Yes.
You're welcome. No problem. Hi. We're gonna get back. Sorry, it's short break because there's a lot to finish. 9:35. I'll see you guys on almost 10 minutes. Let's continue with our website. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. And that's where we are right now. We're still missing two parts, which is the About Me, where you can discuss about yourself, and also how you can link your resume. To link the resume, you just go and search for any PDF resume, PDF, and download a PDF. In that case, you can upload your PDF version of your resume. You can download any template. Like this one, download it. And we can download it in our project folder. And I'm gonna call it resume. Okay. So it's a PDF. And if you open now here, you should have the PDF resume.pdf, and this is the file we want to link it inside the About Me section, which is right here. When the user click my resume, I want the resume to be loaded inside another tab. So I'm going to close this page. I get the PDF version of that resume, and I'm going to start here a new section, which in that case About Me section. I can create a div, give it an ID that this is going to be About Me, and I need to load the profile image. So I'm going to use an image tag. The source in that case is going to be // I'm going to go inside the images and load the profile image. And I'm going to provide an alternative text, John Doe image. And you can add a title, John Doe. Okay. After the image of that person, I'm going to add some text. So I'm going to add a paragraph. Also 3 paragraphs using placeholders, lorem ipsum ×3. I get a bunch of placeholder text. And finally, I want to add the link that will link to my resume. So to link the resume, first I'm going to put the text my resume. And here, the href, you put the location of the PDF. So it's simply resume.pdf. We're not putting a URL, we're putting the name of the PDF file here. So when the user clicks this link, it will open the PDF file. Also, I want to give it an ID, resume. And if you open it, I want it to be open in a different tab. So I will do target _ blank. Save that. Close this. Put it here. Yep. Now you have the image is big, you have the text, and we forget, you see that the text is taking the whole width because we didn't wrap it with our custom class, which is called content. So I'll fix that here, add a content div with a class content, and put everything that I have here, cut them out, copy them, and paste them here. And you can format the document. Okay. Now everything is centered here. Perfect. And I'm missing a header here, or heading here, which is this heading, About Me. So I'm going to add this heading. So before the image, I added h1, About Me. So I have the header here. Okay. So this is only the markup. As you can see, the markup is by itself just really ugly. I need to style that with CSS. So I will start working in the styling. So I'm going to go to the main, About Me, CSS. And I will target the About section. Let me first make sure that this is the ID. No, I give it About -me. Let me just call it About. It's easier instead of just About -me. Just About. So the ID here is About. And I'm going to color all the text with the gray color, which is 333. The background color, I will select the antique white. So this is the antique white from the drop down menu. Okay, this is the only thing that I need to do in that section. Now I need to target the image, the title. I will target the image, the first thing, and the H1 to put some spacing, because right now we don't have any spacing. So I want to put some space here and some space here, and also space between the paragraph and the text and the button. So I can do that by selecting the about, and I'm going to select the H1 that's inside it. Also, the image that's inside the about section, and inside the about section, the paragraph, and all of that. I'm going to do margin bottom 25 pixel. I'll do it 50 pixels. It's fine. I'll add more space here. 50 pixels, margin, 50 pixels, margin, and 50 pixel margin here. Now the image is so big, so I need to adjust the width of the image. About image width, let's do 50%, 40%, 90%. 90% still big. I'll do 35%. 35% is, I believe that's what I used here. Yeah. 35% look good. Now I need to round the corners. To round the corners, border radius, I can use 10 pixels. Good. The last piece here is this button, which is about the A tag. I want first remove the underline. So text decoration, none. I want to use the background color. Which color I used here? The dark gray, which is 333, and the color of the text, white. I will give it padding. First, I want to display it inline block. I give it a padding of top on bottom. Top and bottom, I will give it 10 pixels. You can always try this value. So you can put 5 and 10 pixels and see if that's the way you want to look at the button to look like. It's fine. I'm going to give it 10 and 20. So 10 top and bottom, left and right 20 pixels. And I'm okay with that size. So I want to round the corners. So border radius, 5 pixels or 10 pixels, whatever you feel like. You can test it. This is 10 pixel. 5 pixel look like this. I'm okay with 5 pixels. And now we're done. Let's test the functionality of this button. When I click on it, you see now the resume loaded in the second tab here. Okay. So any questions so far in this section? Same properties you're familiar with, the color, background color. It's just the selection of the element that might be you're not familiar, that you can select the 3 elements at the same time and add this property to all of them. Questions? Anyone confused? Okay, let's add the.
I'm not confused. Fine, it looks so interesting. This is my first time. But then I'm going to request, are you going to share us with this so that we can use it as a template while building out?
Of course, all the codes in every single day, we share it in the GitHub account. You can download it and then update it to your needs. For example, here you can add a paragraph about yourself. Here you can list down all your services that you can provide, give some information about yourself, what is your passion, and add your resume, of course. So it's highly customizable. If you understand how this code works, definitely you can come in here, remove this text, and customize it for your own needs.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Now let's add the last piece, which is the footer, which it should be very, very easy. It's just a copyright and your name and the year. It's just the footer for the page. Most of the pages, they have footers, so why not we add a footer in our page as well? So for that, I will add here footer section. I will add a div, give it an ID of footer, and inside my footer here, I'll give it a div with the class content. And now I just gonna put a simple text in this div, and the text here that I'm gonna put copy rights. And I want to get this character here, or this copyright character. And this is called entity. It's a special character. It's HTML entity. And if you go to if you want to get the full list of entities, you can do HTML entities. And it will take you to W3 School. And it will tell you how you can write an entity. And you see there's a lot of characters. And also you can go to symbols. Probably we're gonna go to symbols because it's a symbol after all. You can get the $sign symbol. And any symbol, it starts with the @ it have a name, the entity name. You can put a number or entity. It starts with the ampersand or @ and end with this semicolon. So the one that I use is the copyright here, as you can see. And copy, then the semicolon. So this is the entity name. So I can copy it and use it right here. And you will see that the Visual Studio Code put it as a blue color. So this is the copyright symbol or CSS, I mean the HTML entity. And then I'm gonna put 2022 and the pipe character and put the name here, John Doe. And if I try to look at this now, here we go. I get this symbol, which is the copyright symbol, by using the HTML entity, which is any entity. This is the text. You put copy, that means you want the copyright symbol. But the format or the syntax of any entity you want to use or a special character in HTML start with the ampersand and end with the semicolon. Okay, now we need to style this footer. So I will go down here, footer, CSS. And notice that since we put the content class here, the content property will take an effect, which is the padding 50 pixels, but the padding is too much here. So you can override this inside the footer. So I can select first the footer. I can set the background color to 333 dark gray and the color to be white. And as you can see, there is a lot of padding here, as I said, because we're using the content class, which is having padding of 50 pixels, but I can adjust that for the footer only. So the footer dot content, I make the padding override it with a different value, in that case 20 pixels. And here we go. It's have less padding because I'm overriding the value of the content here, class. And that's it. Here we go. We have a nice footer, About Me section, services with a nice little animation because we're using GIF images. And you have also the header and the social media list. Okay, so we're done from the CSS. Any questions before I want to show you something else? Is there a way that I can, right now we're in 110 lines. Is there some lines that I'm repeating myself?
Yes.
Definitely, yes. Can I optimize this much better? Yes. For example,
Yes.
for
Stop
example,
spot.
you will notice that for my links or the A tags here, any A tag that I'm using, always I'm using text decoration none, always using display inline block, and always using border radius 5 pixels, right? So how about if I can factor all of these properties and make it general for all the links? So here in the top,
Put it in that asterisk, right?
no, you're just selecting all the links like this, like the A tag. Now I'm not specifying which link in which section. Now all the links, I want the text decoration to be none, and also they should be displayed inline block like this. So now I can reduce the number of lines for every single link that I have. This is an image. This link, I can remove this line, this 2 lines, boom, removed. Here, remove, and this remove. And we was able to reduce most of them, right? What about, let me first make sure that it didn't do anything to my page and all the links same, good. What about the spacing that I keep putting between the images, the paragraph, the H1? Here I'm using 25, which is not uniform as this one. So I can copy these 2 things, put them in top here somehow. Just about. No, E is the link tag. So I want any A tag inside my page to have this styles. Doesn't matter which section is inside it. It's like if you want to select all the paragraphs, you put P. If you want to select all the LIs, you put an LI. If you want to select all the divs, you put div, the name of the element. In that case, I want to select all my anchors or all the links in my page. So this is for the about, and this is for the services. I can put them right in the top here, and I can combine them because both of them, they have margin tops, margin bottom. In that case, I'm going to copy all these lines and paste them here, remove this line, and you can, to easily see them, you can put them in separate line like this. That means all these elements, the H1 that inside the about section, the image inside the about section, paragraph inside the about section, H1 inside the services, image inside the service, and the paragraph inside the services, since they all separated with a comma, all of that take margin bottom 50. Okay, so that CSS class will affect all these elements. And now we save a couple of lines. and make it more efficient. And let's take a look at it. And now it's more uniform because the same amount spacing you give to each element. Okay. Again, this is really simple page. It's not that complex. We just make a use of all the stuff that we learned about. Even if it's not responsive, if you try to make it small or try to view it in a mobile devices, it will break. It's not going to work as you're expecting because it's not a responsive app. So it's only working with big screens, because to work with responsive apps, you need to use different CSS techniques. And also, in this mini boot camps, we didn't go over all the CSS properties, and we didn't go over all the HTML elements that you can use. For example, forms. We never deal with forms. But definitely, if you want to work with form, that's something you need to explore, because you go to many websites, they have forms, and you collect the data from the user. You want to style these forms and do more as well. Again, this is a very basic project that we can do together, but I hope you learned a lot through that simple project, at least to get an idea of how you can use the properties that you learned about and the elements, HTML5 elements that you learned about. Okay, I'm here to take questions. If anybody code is broken, it's not rendering correctly, you can share your screen, we can debug it together, and I can help you with anything.
If we want to link the project to World Wide Web, how are we going to go about it?
There is multiple ways. First, you need to host it to a server. You can host it to GitHub pages. So if you upload it to GitHub, then you can make a use of the GitHub pages, or you can host it in Firebase, which is services by Google. And there's multiple. There's also Netlify. It's a good hosting services. So there's multiple hosting services. You need first to know which hosting service that you want to upload your codes to. And after that, you just push your codes to that server, and it will be live. And most of these servers or these services will provide you with a sub name URL. If you want to have your custom URL, then you have to purchase the URL with the custom name that you want, and simply put that web page under your URL. But for beginners, I don't recommend that you purchase anything. Just get the free name from the services. They are free, like GitHub pages, and you can search how you can. It's very easy. If you're familiar with GitHub, it's very easy to make your code live on the internet.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Anytime. Any other question? So let me ask you this. What was the hardest part in this bootcamp? Hardest property that you learned about in CSS properties? That you still feel like, this is the hardest one that I learned about? Is it the display? Is it the font size? Which one is your favorite? Let me change the question.
I like the border radius.
Yeah, I use it a lot. I like it too as well. Okay, I hope that this mini bootcamp give you a basic understanding of HTML5 and CSS, and thank you for participating in this mini bootcamp. Okay, guys, have a good night, and I will upload the codes in the GitHub that Barry shared in the chat of here, so you will have the code available after the class. Take care. can download it, play around with it, customize it to your own needs. Okay, guys, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alfred.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome anytime.
We'll be in touch.
Sure.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
So Mr. Alfred, what happens after this?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
What happens after this is like if you want to continue, there's a chat here. Clarusway.
Okay.
Ninja people, let's go sleep. Jesus.
What's your time?